Peter, over to you.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Byron. Thanks, Peter. Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to share on the screen the inaugural international map for fintech. So this is something that Peter and I had spoken about, and I started working on it middle of last year, now and again, just trying to pull it together. And you know, I just want to credit some of the sources we use. We used the IDA map. We also used the Why FinServe and Fintech report from Katie Tunstall at the IDA in the UK as well, which is really helpful. We also used the Fintech regulated map that Peter and CompuReg put together. And then it was a lot of industry knowledge, and then just watching announcements, you know, that have happened, and, you know, obviously even recently with the announcement of Stripe, but we've got so many announcements like that, and it's, you know, it's brilliant to see so much, so many companies voting to come to Ireland, making Ireland their European home, and in some cases their European Union home. It's a real testament to the success of, you know, the government strategy, the IDA, the ecosystem, to see, you know, so many unicorns coming here, or, you know, having reached that status, then doubling down on Ireland as their European home, and not just, you know, in all parts of the country. So we're gonna see some examples of that, but we've got some examples from Northern Ireland, from Munster, from Connacht, from Leinster, all over the country. It's really positive to see that. So on the map, as we mentioned earlier on, there are 357 companies across the two maps, of which 111 we've identified in this first pass on the international map. Now, you know, I'm sure we will have missed some. Some haven't made it based on the criteria we've set and we've reviewed. So if you think you've missed out, please, you know, do the survey or reach out to us if you've already done it for a follow-up. But just across the 111 companies, the biggest sector of that is 42.3% of those are in payments. So that represents 47 companies out of 111. The next biggest sector by size is funds and trading, which is a very interesting position for that to be, given the fact that this within the European Union is traditionally the preserve of Amsterdam. So the fact that it's, you know, we've got 14 companies here, and a number of those have openly said that they've moved here into the European Union because of Brexit. That's a real vote of confidence. The next sector after that is credit and lending, with 9% of the overall, or 10 companies. And then RegTech comes in in fourth position with 8%, 9 companies. So, and then we've got a distribution across the other sectors. So I'm sure we'll see this number rise over the coming weeks and months as people fill out the survey, but a really good place to start. And as I think I mentioned earlier on, 35 of those companies of the 111 have come here for the first time in the last 5 years. So partly Brexit and partly expansion and partly what Ireland is doing to attract that business. So that's a really positive sign, and we all need good news given the current pandemic. This is very positive. So I'm just going to share the map on screen, and I'm just going to talk. I know Peter didn't on the indigenous map, but we've had that around for a few years. So I do want to just pick out some companies, not favoring, but given it's the first time we've had this map. I just want to give a little bit of background on some. So if we start in the credit and lending space, just wanted to talk about, you know, some of the places the companies are coming from. So Raisin Bank from Germany, for example, very, you know, great to have them have a presence here. Shopify from Canada. So Shopify are in the, you know, in a number of sectors, and they've recently branched out into credit and lending. So great. And we've got a very significant presence of a few hundred people working for Shopify in Ireland over the last number of years. If we move into funds and trading, we have Alter Domus, who, you know, after work with the IDA, made their Brexit decision to move their trading business for European Union here to Ireland, which is a great vote of confidence. And then we've got Susquehanna International Group, who've been here for a number of years, so long before Brexit. Then if we move on to crypto and blockchain, we have BNY Mellon, who've recently announced that they've moved into that space and have set up a hub here, and Laurie Keogh is heading that up. And then we've also got Consensus from Brooklyn, who are again been in the blockchain space and have had a presence here for a number of years. Then I just want to talk about Ignition Advice. They set up in the saving and investment space. They set up here They fill out our survey, and you know, they've made the move. And then Olivia, which to our knowledge is the first Brazilian fintech. So thank you to Igor Marchetti for giving us the nod about Olivia, who are, you know, Brazilian founders and headquartered in California. Then if we move on to InsurTech, we've got Aon, who've been here for a number of years with their Innovation Analytics Hub, and Unum, who filled out the survey recently, and again, with IDA involvement, have made their decision to come to Ireland. Then if we look at accounting, we've got Sage and Oracle, who've both been here for a long, long time. And then we move to payments, where we've got so many companies in the space and have had for, you know, in some cases 20 plus years. So just to pick out a few, I mean, we've got CyberSource, who've got a base in Northern Ireland and Belfast, and have been there for a long number of years. We've got Booking Holdings, who, you know, are on the US stock exchange and have just set up their financial services business through Shane Fitzpatrick here, and very exciting to see their growth. We've also got my own company, Fiserv, have been, you know, through First Data and you know, previous incarnations, have been in the country for, you know, a long, long time, since just before the year 2000. We've got Home Group, who've come here from Australia very recently. Patreon, for anybody who likes podcasts or you know, seeing artists making money, in particular in the times of pandemic, they've set up their European Union base here as well. And obviously Revolut, and then we've had the news that was mentioned by Karen earlier on around Stripe, who've doubled down on their 350 people here already over the last number of years. They're going to add 1,000 people to focus on the European market. Then if we go to big data and analytics, we've got Arvada Bertelsmann, who've had a long heritage here, InterSystems, who've moved recently, and then in RegTech, we've had Equifax and Experian, who've been here and had a long-term presence, and then Horizon 8, who've come recently, and then TransUnion, who came into the market through the acquisition of Pat Phelan's TrustDev a number of years ago. And then if we move into the other space, there are companies who have, their businesses are, you know, in completely different sectors, but they've, you know, taken e-money licenses or payments licenses and created them here for the European Union, companies such as Google and Facebook. So that's really all I kind of had on the map for the moment. You know, it's going to go up on the website. I'm sure we're going to get some reaction to it. I'm sure we've missed people, so please fill out the survey so we can help to add to it. But it really does give a good insight into the space and how it's evolved. So Peter, over to you. You got any questions or comments?
Thanks for that, Peter. I'm just trying to minimize my screen so I can see you again. There you are. No, I think again, listen, thanks for the work on this particular map. You know, going back to the early days, it was how hard it was just to get the first group of indigenous ones. So the research is really well. But I just emphasise your point that if we don't know about someone, then we don't know about them. And the survey is just the easiest way to know about that company. Plus, it allows something very practical, which is the uploading of the logo. I did think, actually, I know you want to jump into the panel session, and I did send some stats to you before the event, like for like between fintech, between the indigenous companies and the international companies. And most interestingly, you know, payments is the biggest in both groups. RegTech's bigger in indigenous, funds and trading is bigger in international than RegTech. That's probably because there's more RegTechs here that we haven't quite got up to speed with. And it'll be interesting to see whether we see more companies coming in from overseas in financial operations, and also to say that we might get more in platforms as well. But it is interesting. I mean, those of you that work in the areas of like regulation and all the rest, one thing I would say is that one of the other documents we have in the pack, but we probably won't have time to show it to the end, is we do have the regulated fintech map, which is regulated e-money and payments firms. And so there's a good number on those firms. And when I talk to the central bank and like others involved in helping getting people authorised here, I'm told there's still a very strong pipeline. So there's at least 21 plus 17 EMIs on that. So that's due still to expand, Peter. So I'll stop talking there. But if you want me to put anything up in the background, I'm happy to do so.
No, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing now, if I can, and then I'm going to ask our panelists, Elaine Deehan, Lawrence Marshall, and Dermot Kennedy, to join us on screen. Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Great. So look, what I'd like to do is then I'm just going to hand over to each of you to do a quick introduction of yourself and your company, and then we'll run through some questions and really get into the discussion about Starling Bank, Remitly, and EquiLend. So, Elaine, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, everyone. Elaine Deehan is my name. I'm sure I know plenty of people in the audience, given how small our community is in the great scheme of things. So hi and good afternoon. I'm Ireland's country manager for Starling Bank. Starling Bank is, very proud to be on the map now as a fintech that has established in Ireland. And most people know that we do have ambitions to launch in Ireland and across Europe. Most recently, we've announced a fundraising round of 270 million that closed last week, and European expansion out of Ireland is very much kind of front and centre of that and our ambitions. So yeah, very, very excited to be here and looking forward to a good discussion.
Fantastic. Thanks, Elaine. Over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. My name's Lawrence Marshall. I am the local CEO for EquiLend Limited. I actually also operate as the group COO. So EquiLend was established back in 2001. We provide trading services, post-trade and market data to clients in the secured financing markets, namely stock loan and repo. We have offices in New York, London, Toronto, Hong Kong and Tokyo. As mentioned a little bit earlier, our journey to Ireland was primarily driven by Brexit. We needed to guarantee our clients uninterrupted access to European clients. So we started the process back in 2016 and become regulated by the central bank in March 2019.
That's great, Lawrence. Thank you. And Dermot, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Hi, everybody. Again, thanks, Peter, for the invite to this session, and delighted to attend our very first time. Just very briefly on Remitly. We were established in 2011 to disrupt the estimated $700 billion global remittance industry. There were over 270 million immigrants worldwide, which is more than the population of adults in the USA, many of whom are underserved by maybe some traditional financial institutions. And our vision is to transform the lives of immigrants and their families by providing the most trusted financial services products on the planet. We currently have 1,200 employees worldwide. We've got sites our headquarters is in Seattle. We've got sites in Nicaragua, Philippines, Poland, London, and Ireland now as well. We're regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. That's really a brief introduction. Peter, so back to you.
Thanks so much. So Elaine, as you mentioned, £272 million sterling of investment last week, which values Starling Bank pre-money at 1.1 billion. So great, and great to have another unicorn, fintech unicorn here. And given that the business was only founded in 2014, it's fabulous. So just on that, I mean, obviously Anne Bowden, prior to founding Starling, the CEO of Starling, worked here as the Chief Operating Officer for AIB Bank in 2012 and 2013. Was that a factor in the decision to come to Ireland? Maybe you could talk us about how Starling came to be in Ireland.
Yeah, so Anne's, and it's well known that she actually founded Starling on the back of her time in AIB. So she realized that she had, you know, what Anne had tried to do or wanted to do in AIB. You know, she just knew that the only way to do it was to completely start from scratch with the technology from the ground up, not buy, build, and just, you know, kind of just wipe the slate clean and start completely again. And I guess, I mean, it was sort of an easy thing for Anne when she decided that, you know, for European expansion, where to. So I guess Brexit was probably the key driver, you know, for making that decision, because of the loss of passporting rights. So I guess, you know, I'm a good news story from the Brexit point of view. And when the decision to you know, go for a European license, you know, became part of, you know, the came on the agenda, Ireland really was a sort of a no-brainer. She had been here, she knew the landscape, knew the regulator, in terms of a good market to kind of launch in, following from the UK, you know, very similar customer base, similar market. So in terms of like what would have to do to build the product to adapt to the market would require, I suppose, relatively a small amount of work. And then it's just a great bridge then into the rest of the European market. So, you know, we're all of the kind of the reasons, I suppose, that Byron touched on in his, you know, in his session. It was, you know, we're English speaking, common law, you know, innovative, educated population, a lot of Europeans living here as well, which give us access to the language pool, because we will obviously serve our customer base across Europe from Ireland as well. So yeah, as I said, and it was really a no-brainer, but very much from the point of view of launching as a product here as well. That's very, very important and a kind of a key item on the agenda.
Brilliant. Thanks, Elaine. And great to hear the innovation, the seed of innovation kicked off here, and it's come full circle, it's back. So that's brilliant. Okay. So Dermot, interesting then from the Remitly side, and obviously you mentioned the business was founded in 2011, and I met Remitly very soon after that. I met Matt Oppenheimer, the co-founder, in 2014 at Money 2020, and Anthony Olson, and both Peter and I know them, and you know, great business, and it's been phenomenal to see the growth. Obviously $1.5 billion US valuation last summer after the 85 million investment. And what I'd love to understand then is obviously the journey for you know, from Seattle to Cork City, and obviously the fact that, you know, that all happened last summer and right in the middle of COVID, and I believe you onboarded, I believe it's 41 people in Cork City now, and everybody has obviously onboarded remotely. So maybe you can talk us through the, you know, the decision to come to Ireland and then how that process has been so far.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Peter. So similar to I guess Elaine, Brexit was definitely a factor, you know, for us as well. We're regulated by the central bank, and so that was one key factor for sure. Outside of that, I think you know, Ireland obviously has very good air connections. There was pre-COVID, at least, there's a direct connection to Seattle as well. But I'm very excited too. I think I have to say, we initially opened a small office in Dublin, and we were working with the idea then to try to locate, I guess, suitable office space for an expanding team. And I have to give a shout out to the idea. I mean, honestly, we're very lucky to have such an amazing team to work with, both engaging with our global team, but also day to day, you know, on the ground here in Ireland. I just couldn't speak highly enough of that team. So they helped us identify some possible, you know, locations right around Ireland in Dublin, but also, you know, Sligo and Cork as well. And we were very pleasantly surprised with the quality of office space that exists. I'd say, especially in Cork City, that we just weren't aware of. So we've located it in state-of-the-art premises in Penrose Dock, right in the heart of the city, and we've established our Centre of Excellence for all things fraud, risk, and compliance. And so, as you mentioned, we've got just about 40 team members now, and there are still some positions open on remitly.com, just to mention that. But we've got a very truly diverse team. in Cork, and we're serving a lot of you know, send and receive corridors as well. So we're very interested in language skills, and you know, very excited with the language skills we're able to source in Cork. And I have to also mention UCC. They've put us in touch with a lot of really quality, you know, graduates who help to meet our needs. So I think it's a combination of, I guess, the available staff in Cork, available office space, and the quality of the staff. And we've just been blown away by the talent we've been able to attract. I think as well the culture in Ireland is obviously, you know, very pro-business, and the language skills, as I mentioned, is definitely a factor. So those are some of the main reasons. Can chat about COVID, Peter, now if you'd like as well.
Yeah, we might come back to that, but that's really interesting what you've outlined. I mean, you know, and I think it's very encouraging. We've 203 participants, and I think we hit a high point earlier on of 249. But I think for a lot of the people on here, it'll be very, you know, heartening and also helpful to hear the support that you can get from the IDA and you know, local universities and beyond. You know, it's a difficult thing to set up an office in a new country, and you know, having people who are there and have a mission to help you do so, I think is very important. So thank you for that. Lawrence, so I noticed we have a very interesting connection. Your CEO office is in 225 Liberty Street, which is the same CEO office that my company Fiserv have. Now, I'm not sure how much time any of them have been spending in that building of late, but can you talk to us about the, you know, you mentioned 2001, but when it was founded, but can you talk to us about that journey? So how it came to be, who created EquiLend, and then the journey from there, obviously to London, and then obviously to Dublin in terms of the European hub.
Certainly. So, you know, back in, you know, the sort of around 2000, when you had the sort of the you know, really the rise of .com, you know, there was a lot of initiatives looking just to basically provide some standardization for a marketplace that was really, where there was very, very little. So EquiLend was created. It's you know, to this day it continues to be a market-owned you know, utility platform, and clearly as the company has
and when
grown,
you say it's market-owned, are you able to share who?
So,
you know,
so we're owned by 10 banks, and you know, it pretty much it's the, you know, it's the 10 banks from you know, from inception, and you know, it allows it's a great ownership model. You know, it's allowed us as a company, it certainly helped us you know, grow considerably. You know, we now have across the global platforms, we have on average you know, 58,000 transactions a day. It's about, you know, notional value of about 60 billion US dollars. And we are really providing you know, our clients for a global solution, what is still very much an OTC market. So, you know, our clients are you know, very dependent on us in bringing them the ability to be able to manage and to scale their activities. That's why, you know, Brexit was you know, a big issue for us, because, you know, we had operated out of the UK, regulated by the FCA. We'd been grandfathered into to MiFID as an MTF, and you know, for us it was important because we needed to, as I said earlier, continue to support our clients, ensure that there was no interruption in services, but also actually provide some contingency for our staff in the UK in case there was a need for them to be able to operate out of another location. So you know, that was really the journey that the company was on. It's why we took Brexit very seriously.
Because I saw you announced this back in 2018, and it was picked up in the Irish Times that you'd made your Brexit decision back then. So you were very focused very early on.
Yeah, we were very focused in part because I think we felt that it was important to have that to provide that guarantee to clients. So we wanted to make sure that we were prepared, and we were also actually very fortunate. I mean, going into the UK referendum, we'd actually done some very high level work. So we actually narrowed down some options, and we were quite fortunate actually, because the market that we serve, there's very few people that operate in it. So although we actually operate as a trading venue, we are a slightly different trading venue. So there wasn't any natural pull for us to go into a particular jurisdiction.
Okay. Thanks, Lawrence. So Dermot, over to you then. So talk to us about how your experience has been, and obviously you've covered some of it in terms of IDA and UC, but maybe just talk about how it's been in terms of growing the business from here, and obviously how COVID has impacted that in terms of virtually onboarding your whole team.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Peter. I guess first, just to point out, like COVID has been an extremely difficult time for everybody. I guess especially our customers, because our customers still view remittances as being an essential service, and they needed to determine the best way and safest way to send that money back to their loved ones. So I guess there are some challenges, obviously, with traditional, brick and mortar providers. We've seen more and more customers move to digital platform during the COVID pandemic, and so we've seen a significant uptick in our volumes. And so that's the backdrop against which we're scaling our business in Cork. Cork is really a compliance, fraud, risk compliance center of excellence. So we have all of the key functions are located here. And as you rightly said, Peter, we've actually onboarded pretty much everybody virtually, remotely. So I mentioned earlier we have a state-of-the-art office, but very few of the team have actually been based here, and we've been able to do that with an excellent local IT service company actually who helped us to build this out. Also sourced all of our IT hardware from local providers in Cork as well. And then local couriers to be able to deliver, the IT equipment and kit to team members. We're doing a lot of virtual sort of onboarding sessions, virtual training, and we're using, obviously very secure software as well, which has really helped us to be able to scale and grow in the absence of all being located physically in the same building. So
that's great.
I think a lot of that is testament to the team as well, though, and the maturity of the team being able to, adapt to an environment like that, because it's new for everybody. But yeah, couldn't speak high enough of the team and their approach.
Thank you. And Elaine, I mean, have the current COVID enforced working requirements changed your location strategy in Ireland at all?
Yeah, I suppose like what it definitely has done is it's kind of, given us the view that we have much more opportunity to look right across Ireland now in terms of our hiring strategy. And like Dermot was saying, that the IDA was amazing, and since day one we engaged with Byron and Chloe in the IDA and started looking across the regions at different, because we plan to service our European customer base from Ireland. So we'll be building our customer service and operations centre here. And we went on a roadshow and we looked at various locations, and everything has every town within all of the regions that we looked at has a lot to offer in terms of space, proximity to universities, talent. Certain towns and the regions have different centres of excellence. And I think what COVID has made us now realise is that, well, actually we don't need to pin ourselves or to one specific location. or, you know, create one large centralized hub, that we could actually do it on a much, you know, on a smaller basis, introducing the hybrid model. So it's given us a lot more flexibility in terms of our location strategy, our hiring strategy, which I think is a fantastic news story for the country in general, because it really levels the playing field, and they're now, you know, not necessarily competing towns, you know, for attracting the likes of, you know, inward investment from Starling or other multinationals. So yeah, it's just given us a lot more choice and flexibility. And now that we know that we can remotely onboard people very seamlessly, very quickly, it means that our pool of talent just extends far greater across the country.
That's great, and obviously it must be very heartening for the IDA that, you know, to see this, because this has been a stated strategy of the IDA and indeed Ireland for Finance for a number of years, and the IFSF plan 2020 and even the more recent ones, to try and bring these international jobs, you know, further afield out of the main cities in Ireland. So that's very encouraging. And then Lawrence, can you talk to us about, you know, obviously Amsterdam within the European Union would be the traditional location for trading houses. So it's interesting that you've chosen Ireland, and maybe you can talk to us about that. And I suppose how COVID has impacted you, because I know obviously your family live in London, and you would have been doing the regular commute, and obviously that's been severely impacted by. So maybe you could talk us through those items.
Yeah, most certainly. Yeah, the getting back to, you know, again, you know, maybe I'll start with the, you know, why Ireland and not Amsterdam. There was, for us, Ireland was always a very strong option. Familiar landscape, language, culture, law, regulatory framework. And again, this is a recurring theme, and I apologise in advance, but the IDA done an absolutely fantastic job. So very, very quickly, it wasn't about if Ireland, it was more of a case of where in Ireland.
Sorry, Lawrence, I just want to pause for 1 second, because I'm conscious of time and we've run a little bit over the section. And Peter, I haven't got the hook from you yet, but yeah, I know you want to make a couple of announcements, and the session is due to finish in 1 minute. So do we have another couple of minutes, or?
Maybe we'll probably just need to wrap it up fairly soon, because I'm not sure if we lose the video connection bang on at 1:30. Okay.
So yes, a lot, and I think just then very quickly finishing, going to the yes, I mean I thought had been commuting. You know, I found last year I was commuting much less from Dublin back to the UK. Look, you know, what I would say is this was incredibly difficult period for everyone. We had a lot of engagement, continue to have a lot of engagement with our supervisor at the central bank, and I think they've been very fair. We've been very transparent, and clearly we're managing it. You know, you know, it's been a wonderful experience for me, actually, you know, working out of Dublin. So as much as it's difficult being away from the family, you know, it's actually nice to wake up in the morning and be able to go to work in Dublin. And the sooner we can do that with less restrictions, I think the better it will be for us all.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you all. Thank you, Elaine, Dermot, and Lawrence, for, you know, your time leading up to this, and your time and you know, giving us a great overview today. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to hand over now to Peter Oakes for the closing remarks.